Excellent. So, interesting. So we can add the title of businesswoman to your list of accomplishments. So tell me, how did you and Elisabeth Oei, how did that partnership come together? That business relationship?
Oh, I think what happened was Elizabeth Oei has 30 plus years in production, the production end of music,
Right.
and in production music, and just all things related to recording of music and other genres as well as jazz. And around the time I of my 50th year
Right.
here on Earth, I began to look back.
Right.
And looking back was easier to do than looking forward at that time. I
Okay.
think because now I can actually see the breadth of the accomplishment in the work.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think I'm also a collector of beautiful art and and instruments. So I collect musical instruments, and I've always been interested in visual arts. So I think one afternoon I went to a lunch and parked my car just in front of an art exhibit, which I didn't expect to be there. And the art exhibit was in the lobby of a theater.
Right.
And I didn't know that was a theater. So I go into the lobby to look at the artwork, and I discover there's this theater. And I'm thinking, oh, this is whoa. And so immediately asked for, well, who's the curator? La la la.
Hmm.
And they allowed me to go in and take a look at the theater. And
Right.
I still have a photograph of Elizabeth standing in this theater. There's no one in it.
Right.
There's not one light on.
Hmm.
And she's standing there with her arms like this crossed, and she's looking in. I can see what she's thinking. Oh, we have to do a concert here. We have to
Hmm.
do a concert here.
Hmm.
So I thought, oh, okay, this is not too far from home. And it's got everything we need to just make a performance, because most of my life and my work has been in a club,
Yes.
restaurant, people
Yeah.
eating, people drinking, chatting away, smoking. I'm from that time too,
Yeah.
right? So the idea of being on a concert stage is like awesome.
Right.
So we looked at each other and we thought, okay, how do we make this work? So I said, I know what. I just turned 50. And how about if I do a retrospective?
Right.
And how about if I consider some of the artists that I began with, that out of my Miami years, because I did 7 full years of performance life while I got through the University of Miami music program. I
Excellent.
was singing every night from 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. And I did that
Wow.
for 7 years. So I thought, let me find a couple of three musicians that
Hmm.
mark that time. And then let me find, there's a symbol, let me find a few musicians from my New York days,
Hmm.
and let me find musicians from my Los Angeles time, and let's put them all on the bandstand together. Let's make a concert.
Wow.
So that's what happened. We made this concert with a retrospective of my Miami years, my New York years, and to my present day Los Angeles at that time. And we brought them all together.
Right.
And it's called Live at the Madrid Jazz and New Songbook. And you've got, so we've got two or three drummers playing simultaneously with two or three bassists. And that was where Robert Glasper was introduced to everyone, was
Yes,
on
Robert
that record.
Glasper. Really happy for him
Yes,
and the turnaround in his career. Wow.
yes. So Robert was the youngest member of that
Yes.
time. I brought in Steve Turay on and Bobby Watson and Mark Shim, and then we had Victor Lewis and Mark and Smitty Smith and Nathan East and my brother Curtis Lundy and Kenny Davis, Myra Casales on percussion. We had the Los Angeles String Quartet, and we just made this concert. So what we did was, Elizabeth had the smarts to videotape it and record it. And
Right.
that's what began Afrasia Production. Released that product. And that's the start of this. So interestingly enough, I never really thought about pursuing record contracts after that. I was just happy to
Yeah.
be free to be able to produce and work at this new idea. And we just never stopped. And I'm so happy that it's very easy as women in this business to have something thwart that effort. It's very
Yes.
easy
Yeah.
to not receive the kind of support that you would expect that comes along with all of that. So I think we've accomplished a great deal. Two people,
Yes.
and we've got two Grammy nominations in a row. Now it took us
Yes.
another 12 years or more, but all of it has to do with having a vision,
Yeah.
being a little fearless, not talking yourself out of things so quickly, and not worrying so much about how we're going to afford this and how we're going to pay for this. There are a lot of things that you can allow to interrupt your
Yes.
creative process, or your goals, right? But there's something beautiful about not succumbing to those fears, right? And to
Yes.
just follow through.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. So you've sort of answered the question already so beautifully well. But if we can be a bit more specific, so how in your time has the status of women in the recording industry changed?
It's improving all the time. uh I don't know where the changes are necessarily. They're not immediately recognizable to me, but there's more visibility. There's more inclusion. I think there's more consideration for the female artist. I mean, for heaven's sake, I mean, if I drop the needle right now on something, can you tell me if it's female or bass, on bass, or a man on bass? I mean, you
Yeah.
can't know you just, music is a sound, it's a gorgeous thing. And it's the one place where you can't go, oh, that's definitely a lady on the piano. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
No.
silly, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think that we have an industry and we're in a time still where the patriarchy has dominated the culture. And we are beginning to realize the contributions of women that are, far exceed this time, and now it's catching up. So I think that we're in a good time to find more of a place for alongside all that's representing our music as women. It should not be as difficult as it is. I don't
Yes.
think it should be as
No.
hard
Yeah.
to just get your foot in the door or be recognized for the work. But those are things that are slowly changing, with examples like Elisabeth Oei, with Jana Herzog, who began the Motema label, who's
Right.
responsible for Greg
Yeah,
Porter's
absolutely. Yes, his early
initial
releases. Yeah.
recognition. There are a lot. There are a lot of Yes. There are also a lot of concert promoters who are women. We have Ruth Price, who is very well known in the Los Angeles, Southern California area for promoting the jazz music for at least the last 35 years or more, 40 years or more.
Wow.
You have Darlene Chan, who oversees a lot of the jazz festivals. She worked with George Wein for many years. So you have this woman who has been representing the best of the best for decades now too. So we're here,
Yes.
and the names I mentioned you are just a few, but I see that it's getting harder and harder to ignore us. It's becoming more. It's like, why waste the energy trying to keep us from having the same? And maybe perhaps
Yeah.
we are as an instrument in moving things forward. The
Yeah.
fact that we're part of it and we're partners in this experience is good for everyone.
Absolutely. On my radio show, I've been very, very careful to mention that whenever I play an Aretha Franklin song, I'm careful to point out she was a fantastic pianist and songwriter, as well as everything else. And I'm not sure why it is when we are, seeing women up there on the stage, that doesn't occur to a lot of people.
Wow. Well, it's the Aretha's her most successful recordings, the very most successful ones. She's on piano. That's
Exactly.
her.
Exactly. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, Nina Simone. There isn't
Yes.
a Nina Simone album that you could think of that she's not at the piano, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Jerry
Yeah.
Allen, Patrice Russian. It's endless, really. To really call the names. So I was just saying this the other day. I believe the most important part of our life is our childhood and
Yes.
how we develop the information, the things that we're introduced to as young people have so much to do with how the
Yes.
future evolves, right? So the young artist, the young person who's already aware of art form, of instruments, and not just buttons that you push that
Yes.
make, synthesized instruments believable.
Yeah.
We're not talking about push button music here,
No.
okay? We're not talking about having access to computers that can give us, a myriad of recorded samples of
Yes.
something that we can now fuse into our own concepts and make tons of people happy and make a lot of people rich. We're not talking about that.
No.
We're talking about understanding the relationship to the human spirit and the human condition with all that's affordable and accessible to us through the sound of music and the instruments that they're provided. So when a child understands that it takes this and this
Yes.
to play an instrument,
Yeah.
okay? It
Yeah.
takes your heart and
Yeah.
it takes some facility somewhere in your body to
Yes.
render music. And when we and the same when you take a pencil and you apply it to paper and you make a line to render some beautiful artwork. Okay. When children understand that this is the process
Yes.
that leads to somebody creating some little recorded sample that you can make a record from.
Yeah.
When the young person understands that everyone benefits more so,
Yes.
I think.
Yes.
So I'm very much aware and very feels very strongly
Yes.
about parents making their children and those teachers who are teaching young children aware
Yes.
of the value of your self-worth that comes through
Yes.
learning and experiencing any art form, because it allows you to learn more about yourself and the
Yes.
world around you and how things work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you touched upon one's formative years. So come, Miss Lundy, how did you get started? When did you realize that you had something musically to offer the world?
I was a kid, just as I was saying. I got started as a kid. I'm from a family of musicians, but not professional musicians.
Okay.
Musicians in church, musicians, you know, who part of that family connectivity and that bonding, and the music is part of that. From a family where we go to the music to solve problems.
Yes.
We go to the music to lift, to identify and to become self-identified as community. So my early upbringing, and I have lots of cousins, lots of siblings, and no, we're not all musicians. I just happen to have a brother
Yeah.
who's a great bassist, Curtis Lundy. And I have a younger sister who sings beautifully, but she chose not to make a career of it. So you see, my mother was a wonderful gospel singer. She sang with the same women for over 40 years. I actually
Wow.
made a film about that
Yes, I'm
that
aware of
we
it.
did
Yes.
last summer.
Yes.
And so as a child, interestingly enough, every home that I've ever lived in um, had a musical instrument
Right.
in it. Someone played it. So I
Right.
grew up. My grandmother had the piano. Our home had the piano. Um, Somebody played drums. Someone played guitar. Someone played organ. Someone played saxophone. So even if it wasn't professional, we grew up that way. And then you experience as a kid. I can remember going to a juke joint. I mean, a juke joint. I don't know if you know what a juke joint is,
I
but
know of the Quincy Jones album Q's Juke Joint, so I can kind of work out what it is.
it's just a little. It's in the woods with light that says the juke joint is here. That's all it
Right.
is, really. It's a shack in the woods, deep in the woods, somewhere that somebody knows how to get to, and you go there with this sort of like, okay, it's just, but you're gonna have fun, and everybody's gonna juke, because when you juke, that's like throwing down the body to the music and just
Yeah.
jamming. That's just a great time. And I can remember going to things like that. And I can remember hearing the blues. I can remember hearing an awesome blues guitar as a child.
Yes.
So my mother noticed that I was poking melodies out on piano when I was about 4 or 5 years old. She knew that I was poking out those songs that she was teaching, that she was learning for church the next day.
Right.
So she started me into the piano lessons. I think I was all of 5 or 6 years old when I began to take formal piano lessons. And my brother Curtis is just behind me. I was taking piano lessons from Leslie Bloss, and Curtis was taking drum lessons from her son.
Right.
So we were just, little kidlets, taking, dance class, music, whatever, my mother thought could keep us busy and interested, and we could learn along the way. But that's the earliest. And I can say that she was smart to transfer what I was learning and picking up orally, and for me to apply and understand what that was in a formal way. So I did that for most of my childhood, but I wanted to emulate my mother. So it was more fun to emulate my mother's singing than it was my aunt's piano playing. So my aunt is where I was sort of copied a lot of the gospel harmony that you hear on piano and on organ. So I was sort of copying her at the same time taking formal piano lessons. But I think the singing
Right.
was because I wanted to emulate my mother.